afternoon. My name is Kayla Griffin, and I have Mr. Michael Omalley here with me. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
We just have some questions for you, and we want the viewers to be able to know who you are and know what you're running for. So let's jump in. Can you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself?
Certainly. My name is Michael Omalley. I'm currently a candidate for Cuyahoga County Prosecutor. I've been a lifelong resident of the Cleveland area. I was the youngest of 11 children. Graduated from Brooklyn High School, then Kent State University, and then Cleveland Marshall College of Law in about 1992. After graduating from law school, I worked my way through law school as a bailiff and a probation officer down the Cleveland Municipal Court. After that, I worked as head of private law practice as well as practicing municipal law part-time. I then became a Cleveland City Councilman in 1999. I represented the Old Brooklyn area of the city of Cleveland. I represented 23,000 people in Old Brooklyn. It was a great experience. After my tenure in Cleveland City Council, I worked in the administration of Jane Campbell as a Assistant Director of Public Utilities, and then I worked for Mayor Frank Jackson in the same capacity in his administration. I then left, became a Cuyahoga County Prosecutor, and I served in that capacity for about 8.5 years. And currently I'm a safety director at the City of Parma.
Now, you talk about being in the prosecutor's office for 8 years. At that time, you were under Bill Mason.
Well, for 6 years, I was under Prosecutor Bill Mason, and then the last 2.5 years, I was under Prosecutor Tim McGinty. And I can say, you know, I've had a great deal of, as I discussed, I've had a great deal of professional experiences working for many different individuals, including, you know, Mayor Jackson, Mayor Campbell, being a Cleveland City Councilman for 6 years. But I think from all of those positions, you come across a great many people, including your supervisors and bosses in whatever occupation you may have. And I think, much as life, you know, you learn some things from people that are your bosses, and things that you would do and things you do different. And I can tell you, I've had 30 years of professional experience. I have a great breadth of experience. I'm my own man. I will do things as Michael Omalley feels is the right way to do things. And I'm not a Bill Mason guy, I'm not a Frank Jackson guy, I'm not a Jane Campbell guy. I'm an individual who's just trying to do right by this community and is going to perform in a way that would make this community proud.
Great. Got an extensive background here in Cleveland.
I have had a number of occupations, but I think that his done me well as far as giving me a wide breadth of experience in a number of occupations. But you know, I've also got a great deal of experience in the criminal justice system, having served as a probation officer, a bailiff, and then with a private law practice for 15 years, and then as a county prosecutor for 8.
Okay. What made you say now is the time to run for prosecutor?
Well, it wasn't an easy decision, but having worked for Prosecutor McGinty for about 2.5 years, I questioned the direction that the office was heading in, and I just felt, given my experience, I felt I could do a much better job managing the 350 plus people that are in the office, and also restoring the public's confidence in the office. I think in the past 3 years, the confidence in the office, the feeling of the people in this community that justice is being served fairly and impartially has eroded. And I think somebody needs to come in and restore the confidence back in that office that has been taken away. And quite frankly, it is the pillar of our community. We need to have a justice system that all people feel treats them fairly. And I think we've lost that.
Recently, the endorsements came out, and neither yourself nor Prosecutor McGinty got an endorsement from the Democratic Party. Is that because of a lack of confidence, do you think, in the prosecutors?
Well, certainly I fought hard for the endorsement. I thought I put on a good battle. I was running against an incumbent county prosecutor, and I think the fact that he received less than half the votes I did was a reflection of his tenure in the office. I came within 5 percentage points of getting the Democratic Party endorsement, and quite frankly, he was going neck and neck with himself and no endorsement. In no endorsement, finished third, but it was a close third behind him. I think that's a reflection of his leadership and his tenure in the office.
So for our viewers, In order to get the endorsement, you need a 60% of the votes cast from 443 members of the party's executive committee. Mr. Omalley received 55% of the votes. McGinty received 27%, and 18% of the voters, largely from the Cleveland's east side, abstained from voting. How do you plan on winning those votes in the race?
Well, I think Mr. McGinty's decision, I think he further politicized the right situation by holding off any announcement on what he had planned to do. But the reality is, since the endorsement interview, I have been working very hard throughout both sides of this community, both east, west, north, and south, to try to shore up additional support. And I think I've made great strides over the last several weeks to perhaps garner more support. But in the end, I need that support to be with me on March 15th, and that's my goal. You know what? I can't look back. I need to look forward, and I'm looking forward to the election, continuing to work hard over the next 60 days or so in earning the support and trust of all the people in the county.
Good. In 2015, Cleveland had over 100 homicides. They ranked one of the top worst cities, most dangerous cities in the United States. If you were in office at that current time, what would you do to maybe get tough on crime? What would you do as far as the crime rate is concerned, and how would you approach it as prosecutor?
Well, I think as prosecutor, certainly your job is to prosecute criminal activity, but I think you also can be proactive and establish programs to try to intervene before crime happens. I think it makes for a much more productive result. Is what we want to do, is have less victimization. And if you get out in the neighborhoods, I believe you work with your local police departments, you work with the mayor of the city of Cleveland and its neighboring suburbs, I think you can make a positive step towards reducing the criminal activity, and not just sitting in the 9th floor of the Justice Center waiting for it to happen and then those cases to come down the pike. So the reality is, I would be out there as a proactive prosecutor, building bridges, working with the neighborhoods, the neighborhood activists, the local police departments, to try to stop crime before it occurs.
Good. Your tagline on your website was restoring confidence and building a brighter future for everyone. It seems like what you're shaping in our conversation, that's what it's shaping up to be.
Well, you know what? I've been traveling the county now for about a month, and what I continually hear, it's stop after stop, is people feel the system is broke. In particular, in the African American community, I certainly don't want to be the speaker of the African American community, but I can tell you what they've told me is that they feel the system's broken, that there's just a lack of fairness. And all people want is to be treated fairly, white and black. And I think part of that process in restoring that belief is to get out there, work the communities, let the individuals in the community know who you really are, so they know and they can have a little trust that the person who's dealing with those critical issues is somebody who understands their community and is looking out for it. And I think Prosecutor McGinty was elected 4 years ago, and I think his first mistake in office was not getting out in there, making himself known to the community, attending events where people learn who he is and what he's about. And so when tough cases and tough situations are brought downtown, that they have a feeling, and the community has a feeling, that the individual there is somebody who's looking out for them and has their best interest at heart. And you know what? And again, all I've heard is for people to say, we want fairness. And I can pledge to you that as Cuyahoga County Prosecutor, I will bring fairness to the office.
That's what we like to hear. In the recent case, Prosecutor McGinty's treatment of the Tamir Rice case, as well as the case now being called 137 Shots with Melissa Williams and Timothy Russell, brought not only national attention but international attention. Over the holiday break, I was in the Middle East, and no indictment came, and it was on the news. It was on the front page. What will you do to restore hope, not only in the citizens of Cleveland, but to show the world that Cleveland is not a bad place to live.
Well, I think the first thing we need to do is to prevent tragedies like that from ever happening again. We've had two unfortunate, tragic events that occurred in this city, and you know, we need better training for all involved, from the dispatchers who dispatch the phone calls to the officers involved. I think we need to be proactive and work with professionals to instill the appropriate training techniques in police, that these incidents never ever occur again, because as you indicated, you were in the Middle East and you're reading about the tragic events in Cleveland, Ohio, and they're not reflecting well upon this city or this region. And you know, that family will never be the same. To lose a child at the age of 12 is an unimaginable event in a parent's life, and I pray to God I never see that day as a parent. But we can do better, and it starts with training, and it starts with presenting cases and utilizing the justice system in a way that people think that their issues are being fairly addressed, and that's what I'm going to do.
When it comes to the justice system and officers particularly that come before the prosecutor's office and before the courts, how would you address transparency among the constituents that you're looking to garner? What does transparency look like in the event that an officer has killed someone who's unarmed? And
well, I would say on that issue, first and foremost, you know, State Senator Sandra Williams has proposed some changes in Ohio law that perhaps allowing an independent third party to come in and begin an investigation and perhaps handle the prosecution of such a case, or the handling of the investigation and the grand jury presentation of such a case. And I am supportive of that. I think it's a great idea to allow an independent third party. You know, the prosecutor's office, you work with local police agencies every day of the week, and the reality is that people question that relationship and whether it has a bearing on how cases are eventually resolved. And I think it's a great idea. I have spoke to State Senator Sandra Williams on the subject. I'm going to continue to have dialogue with her and people in Columbus, and I think it's a terrific idea to look at how we can change our current process to make it better.
Is there anything that you would like to say in closing to the voters that are watching?
I'd like to just say this, that I've got a great deal of experience, and I've got a great deal of experience working with people to make a positive change. And as Cuyahoga County Prosecutor, I'm going to come in, I'm going to begin reestablishing community-based prosecution. I'm going to continue the process of looking at how we can reform investigations such as these last several tragedies we have. And I'm going to work very hard to build bridges to restore confidence in that office once again, so that when people talk about the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office or the City of Cleveland, positive thoughts come into their head. Is a system that treats people fairly, works to help people resolve their issues, and is responsive to the community.
Thank you. Is there a website or a handle or hashtag? We're in a social media
Certainly,
generation.
I encourage people, OMalleyforprosecutor.com. It talks about some of my issues that I'm going to be pushing as far as reforming the prosecutor's office, and I appreciate everyone's consideration on March 15th. Get out and vote. A diverse workforce in the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office that adequately and fairly represents the communities which we serve, and so that will not change. I will continue to actively recruit minority candidates and make sure that they're in positions of significance.
I appreciate that. As a Cleveland Marshall grad like yourself, I appreciate the diversity that comes from Cleveland State University and the network that we have. So there's definitely a lot to offer from our students.
Again, at Cleveland Marshall College of Law, You graduated from there, I graduated from there, and it reflects the community, and so should the prosecutor's office.
Absolutely. Cleveland is in a critical time. We are in the midst of an election season, and regardless of what candidate you side with, we urge you to get out to vote. You have had an opportunity to hear one candidate, but do your research, be educated, be informed, and make sure you get to the polls. I am Kayla Griffin with Full Moon Productions Entertainment, and thank you for watching.